Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to Market Psychology, where we try to find value where there's fear and to be cautious where there's greed. We're going to take a good look at crypto today. I was playing around with some different indicators and just seeing what are some things I could find because pretty much for the last few weeks it's been the same story. Stocks go up, there's a little bit of a lag, and then crypto goes up. Right now, crypto in the short term is going down. I'm not too worried about it. Woo. Sorry about that. I'm not too worried about it. Let me get rid of this volume uh, thing right here because any of these big movements down, as you can see, we're just in a range here. Nothing's really changed. Yes, we're getting some of these moves, but we still have an ascending wedge here. Okay, we're making a flag pattern. Is it going to dump? Who knows? Is it going to pop off? We'll see. You can see here we had a similar sort of flag pattern, and boom, we spiked up. So, what's it going to do this time? We'll see and react when we get there. Uh, let's go through the fear and greed index, and crypto is tied to stocks right now. Stocks in extreme greed. There is a little bit of a lag. Stocks today are down a little bit, as you can see here. S&P down 13, Dow down 50. It's kind of been the opposite lately. Sorry, it's my that's my cat's automatic feeder. If you could hear that, it's been these numbers, but mostly green. The last couple of weeks, sometimes it pops off real big. There was that one day where it went down a lot. Right now, stocks, smart money. Look, we're still trending down. I'm going to be interested to see what this shows come January, February. I'm guessing. I'm going to show you a couple of things here pretty soon, but I'm guessing with the timing of the ETF and the timing of when this might curl, that maybe later in January to middle of February, things start to dump a little bit just by how it looks right here. Obviously, you never know. Smart money or dumb money still curling up and over. Um, Yield curve, nothing's really changed here. This is a Bitcoin rainbow chart, blockchaincenter.net, shout out. We've talked about this before, that every halving cycle, the first halving's back here, it was in this lower, basically a fire sale zone. But every halving, we go up a zone. We were in the buy zone in the second halving, in the accumulate zone. In the third halving, will we be in the still cheap zone? And the next one, and that would be anywhere between 51.7 and 67.5. Maybe we'll get into why that's possible or what I'm looking for. Altcoin season. This one's interesting to me. So if you go to blockchaincenter.net, altcoin season index, I put it on the yearly because to me it gives the best picture. As you notice here, after the 2017 bull run, 2018, we were trending down. Once we started to break up, that's when the bull run really started to pick up steam. And we ran hard into alt season. Really, I want to say it was around here. Let me just confirm. When was, I should know these dates by now. So, like April of 21. To me, that was the true end. Here, yeah, Bitcoin ran up again to similar highs, but most of the alts did most of their work right in here. So this was the time to be in, not here. And we may still be in this time right now. I think we are. We're just at a heightened phase. I'm waiting for it to consolidate and then possibly buy. But March, April 21, where was that? So over here. So that's interesting because we did spike up a lot. And there's probably a lot of alts that did run a decent amount during that time. I'm just going to, let's see, what time was this about? September of 2020. I'm looking at this first time with you guys here. September 2020. Where was something like Cardano? September of 2020. Yeah, so right in here. So we had the COVID crash sell off March 2020. After that big sell off, when the Fed started printing money like crazy, that was our first big run. As you can see, Cardano, it was at around 3 cents at the time, went to 13 cents. So let's, for the sake of simplicity, just say it did a 4x there. Okay. Cardano did a 4x, kind of had one, two, three waves up there, consolidated a bit, and then boom. After this, that's pretty much all she wrote. Sure, you could have waited a little bit more. Um, Actually, it's funny how the scaling here works. That's a buck 15. This is $3. So, it's funny how that is majority of the move, but it looks so small. So I take it back, stand corrected. We still had a bit further up to go. But yeah, that's interesting. Right here, altcoin season index, that is right here, and we spiked way back down before truly going up. May of 21. Let's see, May of 21 was back here. So at this peak when we were at $2, but we still almost went up to 3. And that was, let's see, would that have been January of 22? January of 22 was over here. This was earlier, September of 21. September of 20. So it was up here. So there was a little bit of divergence there. If you would have waited for the last peak, there would have been some selling off. So this just goes to show that all the altcoins, they go to the beat of their own drum. As much as they move with Bitcoin, the very peaks don't always coincide with everything else, or with exactly what Bitcoin's doing. Anyways, back to my major point here. As you can see, we were in this downtrend, and that when we were here not too long ago, this is about a week ago, I was wondering if we were going to get a bounce and come back down. We did not. Now this is a breakout of the trend, and how high will this go? I don't know. That depends on Bitcoin, what it's going to do. We're getting closer and closer to ETF news, so maybe we're going to get a big spike. Maybe like back here in that initial phase, some of the alts are going to run overall 3x. There have been a lot of alts already that have gone 2 or 3x. You can take a look at something like Chainlink. Let's back out here. Chainlink over here was at 6. Right now, it's at around 15. So it's done 2.5x. All right. If we take a look at Solana, which is really run, Solana, what gives the best view here? Sure, we could go from back down here, but let's just take the average of where it was accumulating. It was at around 20, and then yeah, it did a 6x. It did get up to 120, but you could say a 5x just because it's probably gonna hang around here at 100. So Link did a 2.5x. Solana did it's probably gonna sit around a 5x. So maybe this spike is similar to what we had back here, and it's similar to when Bitcoin came out of the COVID crash. I'm not sure. It's interesting on the timing. Now we do have to take the data for what it is. So if we're comparing all things being equal, then this move and what the alts did here is very similar to what's going on here. Does that mean we're going to get, maybe 1 or 2 more consolidations before blasting off? Maybe. So every bull cycle or every 4-year cycle, things are a little bit different. And Bitcoin crypto does something very different to surprise us all. Is it an early bull run in 2024? Maybe. As we look back here at the fib, Something I've been looking at a lot is how, here it kept getting stuck at the point 0.5. And then once it broke above the point 0.5, I'm talking with bodies, not wicks, then we were on our way. And any time we were between the 618 and the 786 was a great time to buy. And this I was measuring from the prior top. I had a fib drawn out before. We'll do it again. So if we go from the very bottom, and I'm going to measure it out against the very top, I'm looking at that dotted line on the left. There we go. Here we're getting stuck around the 0.5. Okay, so we really haven't been bouncing up and down off the 618 to the 786 too much. We hung down here for a bit. We were accumulating around the 786 and boom, blasted right through the 618 to the 0.5. I would personally like to see, doesn't mean it has to happen, I would like to see it come back down to the 618, maybe get some volleyball action there like we did in the prior cycle. Maybe we're not going to get that. Maybe we're going to bounce around more between the 0.5 and the 618. Who knows? This time could be different. So I think that's all I want to say about alt season. Just something to watch. Maybe we are doing something different. What is this? All right, crypto fear and greed. Crypto, as far as the greed goes, it's a little less than the stocks. Stocks are in extreme greed. Crypto is just kind of been in greed, high greed. 75 is where we get into extreme. We're not there yet. And as you can see, if we go to the yearly, look, we're just kind of chopping around in here. I'm waiting for it to spike up close to ETF news. When we had the big run in 2019, we got up to 95. I've been looking to see crypto spike somewhere between the 85 to 90 range. And yeah, maybe we're having something similar to here, but in reverse. Maybe all the action, the price action that happened in here is playing out kind of a different time. Maybe this action here, we're getting more in the middle of this whole zone, and some of the chop is going to be on the other ends. And what I mean by that is maybe we get kind of a head and shoulder movement before blasting off. I know a head and shoulder movement would freak the hell out of a lot of people. Not saying we're going to go back down to 15,000 levels. If we got a recession, you never know. But yeah, if we got any sort of a head and shoulder shape, yeah, it's just interesting to think and to theorize what might happen. Last things I wanted to show you as far as Bitcoin goes, I have this Don Chain trend ribbon up. I also wanted to show you a couple different indicators. This pi cycle Bitcoin high-low indicator. Something interesting is that, this level around 58 to 60,000. Remember, this is the long high moving average that we hit in 2019 when Bitcoin went to 14,000. I know it wicked higher before coming back down. I'm wondering if the ETF news, something's going to happen to get us in the extreme greed, that 85-90 zone, hit here and then fall back down. Okay, and we talked about how on the Bitcoin rainbow chart that during the halving, we've been going up a colored section every halving, and if we are to go into this still cheap zone, I mentioned this earlier, that would be in that range, that 51 to 67 range. The only thing that doesn't make sense completely is the timing. If we did shoot up to 60,000 or 58,000, we would have to hold those prices until April. That's when the halving is. It's not in March, it's early April. Okay, so would we hold it up there, come down a little bit, or are we going to hold it up there and just kind of keep crawling up? I'm not sure. I mean, that if all Bitcoin price does is just slowly grind up, that's going to mess with a lot of people, including myself, because it's normal for the markets to have a little bit of chop and pullback. As you can see, each time through the halving phase, it kind of curls up here. Here, it curled up. We got some high price action early, but overall the shape is still the same. It curls up. Are we going to have that again, just this big curl up? And what's that going to be in between? What's that going to look like this time that's different? Anyways, just something to keep in mind. Let's take that off. I had the volume-based support and resistance zones because, well, right here, I know it's hard to see, but this purple zone right here, that would be the next one to hit. A lot of people are talking about that 48 to 52,000. The fibs line up with that. I can show you that again soon. This purple zone over here, here's where we get 55 to 58,000. That lines up more with what I was talking about earlier. Okay. Now, if the price were to go down, some of these volume zones, 33 to 36,000, I am hoping it gets there because anything underneath, I might consider buying. And this other volume based zone, the 26 to 23,000, it's right at the lower end of my buy zone. Anything beneath that, I think, would be a great opportunity. Let's take this off because I know those lines can be busy. We're going to draw that fib one more time. So if you remember where those numbers were that I just talked about with the volume, funny enough, it lines up with the fibs. So we talked about this 48,000 level. That's at the 382. We talked about the long moving average on that pi cycle. That's up here at the 236. Wouldn't that be something if we went up to there into the ETF news and then came down and then maybe bounced around in here before blasting off? Yeah, who knows? And then we also talked about how the volume said that, this would be a level at the 618 as well as at the 786. One last thing I wanted to look at with you guys, and that is this Don chain trend ribbon. Is some of you may have noticed I do not have the RSI, the relative strength index, at the bottom. And by the way, this white line, that is the halving. So I was just curious as to how long that took at the bottom when we were in this green zone. And when I line it up where the 5 matches up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, as you can see here, we got up to somewhere probably around 43, if I had to guess. Okay, 43 weeks, which is interesting. Okay, so that's close to a year's worth of time, but just a little bit less. As you can see here, we're going to line up those numbers. Did I get it? 3, 4. Yeah, I got it, or close enough to it. So where would 43 put us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if this is something playing out similar, this Don chain trend ribbon saying we may have 6 more weeks, so that put us into mid-February of green. As you can see, even though this ran up here, we still stayed green overall until we broke down into that COVID crash. And so I wonder, is something going to happen around mid-February? March is a time a lot of people are talking about with the banks having to repay their loans after the Silicon Valley bank collapse. The government got ahead of the situation and started loaning banks money. If you want to look more into that, there's plenty of videos on YouTube, just because a lot of them were in the negative, losing money on bonds because the extreme changes in bond rates and what the banks were getting back. They were losing money on their bonds. A lot of them were over leveraged with bonds. And so they've been taking out loans. And the word on the street, aka Twitter and YouTube, or X, I should say, is that a lot of the banks won't be able to pay back those loans. when they start coming due in March. So it's not going to necessarily mean that March comes and then boom, we fall off the face of the planet. But it will be interesting. We have the ETF news. When ETFs get approved, what's going to happen? Is it going to be sell the news, or are we going to spike? If I had to flip a coin, I'm leaning towards a spike. And then I believe with the amount of strength we've had in this movement and the amount of time that into the halving, we might sell off a little bit. The halving hasn't been as exciting of a time as people like to say. Um, I remember this from the last two times. You know, every time the halving comes around, people talk, get all excited, but it tends to be a pretty good time to buy. There and after, you see a little bit of a drop here. You know, really after the halving, things only went up. But when it did start to really move up, you you better wish that you were in back here at the very latest. So, you know, what's it going to be this time? Are we going to spike into the ETF news, slowly work our way down? Maybe we'll be at the lower end of this still cheap zone around 51, come back down a little bit, and then go up. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, that's those are just some things I wanted to look at with you guys. I know there's some conflicting sort of theories from the data I've presented today, and that's done on purpose because I I want to emphasize, you know, I say this at the end of every video, but truly none of this is financial advice, and you have to make your own risk, take your own decisions. It's not as clear cut of a time to buy as it was when we were back here. Let me put on the RSI again. You know, when things are oversold and we're double tapping, um, and you know, I like this UT bot alert indicator. There's another one I really like. When we're getting buy signals on the weekly or even monthly, that's a good time to buy. So right now, you know, for me, I'm just taking this time to pay off bills, things I'm financing, stuff like that. I'm being patient, but that doesn't mean that things have to come back down. Again, time in the market is more important than timing the market. If you are new to crypto and you're like, I want to buy, people are getting rich, that is very risky to think like that. You don't want to FOMO in, that's fear of missing out, and that's a good way to lose your money. And you want to increase your time in the market because right now we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if the ETF is going to be sell the news or it's going to blast off. We don't know if things are going to crash in 2024. People talking about recession. Who knows? Maybe that's going to be delayed. Maybe not. I don't have those answers. No one does. But I have these zones for me on purpose to force me to be patient and to not chase. So if things come back to where I would like them to be, great. If not, that's the risk I'm taking. If you have a higher risk tolerance, well, that's your choice that you will have to live with. I do think that altcoins can still have a ways up to go. Stuff like Link, Solana, Fetch, um, and other very solid altcoins. And I'll make a video for Trading View, or not Trading View, excuse me, for Robinhood and Coinbase altcoins. I'll make a video for those soon, maybe even later today. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for today. I hope some of this information kind of helped you out, and gave you maybe some pros and cons of the current market conditions and just some things to watch. So all those resources I showed you are available for you as well. Um, and as always, none of this financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Everything said in this video is just my opinion and for entertainment purposes only. And with market psychology, I'm not looking to get in when things are overbought. We have the RSI curling down. You know, if we get oversold again and fear grows in the market, then I will be changing my mind or taking a different approach and thinking, maybe now might be a good time to buy. So that's just one of the things I look for. And we've talked about other indicators before. Anyways, hope you all have a wonderful New Year's and take care.